Yo, are we on? Yo, this is my first live here uh, on the channel. I'm so offended.
Have you lost Medicaid or CHIP?
I'm so offended. That's right.
$10 or less per month with financial
I
help.
have the chat open.
Enroll in a
I
plan
know, like,
today at
most of
healthcare.gov.
y'all is
Paid
asleep,
for by the US
especially
Department of
over on
Health
the
and
east
Human
side, the
Services.
east coast, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Um, had a win in court today. Had a very, very lovely win in court today. Yep. So it wasn't child support related. It was family law custody related. Um, but it went good. It went good. Um, Maybe I could give y'all a little bit of background. So I had previously posted about a case about my case, as far as I had tried um, something that I saw somebody do in in another state, right? So I saw, so there was a guy that was able to write up some paperwork using children as um, what is it, property, right? And so, because originally, before the 14th Amendment, before way back in the day, obviously men, they were the head of household, they were in charge of everything, and they were, and their wives, their children, their all of that was their property, right? This is how it used to be way back in the day. And so this was the you know the old school common law things that these guys were trying to pull, and this guy was able to do it, but he did it through agreement, right? So it doesn't matter how you label somebody when you do it through agreement. And so that's what happened, and I'm like, all right, I want to try this, just to see how it goes, you know. And so I tried doing it that way, and obviously it didn't work out because they ended up um, alleging a custodial interference. Um, and I mean, it didn't happen because there's certain criteria that has to be met for it to be a custodial interference. But basically, I was supposed to return my daughter on a certain date, and I didn't because I thought I had a new agreement with the baby mama. I had sent her a new contract. She signed for it. I did it twice, three times over, through the whole administrative method. And, I know some of y'all might have tried it. Some people are, trying to learn, trying to figure things out, and you'll try anything except trying to play by the court's rules. And what I noticed is, well, first of all, doing this, it didn't work. It didn't work. And it backfired on me tremendously. Tremendously, it backfired on me. And so, what I ended up doing is having to crawl my way back from like zero contact with my daughter. Zero contact. And and then what I did is I just played by their rules. I played by their rules. These people don't care. They don't care. You just have to play by the rules and respect that they're making these rules. But they truly don't care about children being robbed of their relationships with their fathers. They don't care. So I played by their rules. And it wasn't hard because I mean I love my daughter. I love my children, and I did what they asked. I did what they asked. I researched their rules, played by their rules, and one after another got relief, got remedy, got relief, got remedy, one after another. And then today, and then today, I had this hearing. So what had happened was, um, because I didn't return my daughter when I was supposed to. They're alleging that I could potentially take her out of the country. It was really silly. It was really silly what they were alleging, but there's nothing you can do, you know, because their allegations are true to them, even though, like, I'm stuck here. I'm stuck here, as much as I want to leave, I can't. I can't. Anyway, so they had me made some kind of requirement for me to place a bond, right? And so I'm not rolling in dough or anything, you know. So I didn't have the money to pay this bond, you know. And in this ruling, it said that it would be lifted as of a year later. And so, I mean, it sucked having to go through supervised visitation for like months and months and months and months and months. But you know what? I gotta play by their rules. I was happy to see my daughter anyway. I gotta play by their rules. So I did. I played by their rules. I didn't have the money for the bond, to pay it because I have to pay this bond in order to have unsupervised visitation, right? So, but I didn't have the money. So, I was seeing my daughter every week, regardless. Supervised visitation. Okay, it is what it is. At least I get to see her. I'm paying for that as well, right? But I didn't have the money for the bond, so it is what it is. But it expired in a year, which was yesterday. And then the baby mama and her attorney are saying that they're not going to produce her, that they're going to, basically they're committing a custodial interference. Then all of a sudden they file this Rule 47. We're familiar with the Rule 48, the temporary orders. Rule 47 is kind of like a temporary order. It's a little different. It's basically based more on a belief factor and not so much imminent danger, but it's along the lines. So anyways, in order to fight this thing, I'm like, all right, they're invoking these rules. So I looked up the rules. That's exactly what I did. I looked up the rules that they were invoking. I used their rules against them. All right. I used their rules against them. You know what? This is a live. I think I'm going to get a little bigger on here. There you go. All right. So I used their rules against them. I wrote up my documents. First, I wrote up a motion to enforce, right? Because they were alleging that they weren't going to follow the court order. They weren't going to produce my daughter. I'm like, all right. First, I sent him an offer to compromise. You want to do that, right? Because you don't want to pay attorney's fees. Either way, I never will and I never have, because I have no contract with them. So, but you always want to compromise. So I contacted the attorney, and I'm like, hey, follow the court order. I'm gonna call the police. You're gonna commit a custodial interference. And the police don't do nothing. They're really just there to make a report. And so, told him that. And next thing you know, they filed this Rule 47 temporary orders and a modification, right? Now the modification is untimely because they got to do it until a year after there's been a court order modification, right? So a modification, you can only do it once a year, right? It has to be after it's been a year. And they did it days before. And so it's untimely. It's untimely. That's just what it is, right? And but the only way it'll survive is if they survive their Rule 47, their temporary orders. That's why, some of you guys, they throw temporary orders on you. Next thing you know, you can't see your kid and you're in the middle of trial, whatever it may be. It's those goddamn temporary orders where it's just prima facie and people make false accusations, whatever it may be. So anyways, that's what they tried to pull. So, I never got served, but I found out about the paperwork, and so I went to the courthouse to go look up on their computer the paperwork. I saw it there. I took some pictures of it. I kind of screenshotted it at the courthouse because you could see everything. And then I went home, and then I looked up, and then I went to work. So they filed those two documents against me, right? Rule 47 temporary orders, and then a modification. So I went to work. I looked up the rules that they were invoking. This is what you guys got to do. Whenever something gets filed against you, they're invoking a rule, right? So you look up that rule and you use their rules against them. So I looked up the rules, right? And it was massive. They were invoking like all kinds of rules, right? And then once you're looking within the rule, then it says it only applies if rule this, 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 and this applies. And then you go down and it says, but this part applies if rule this, this, and this applies. It is very, very strenuous. You got to keep looking, got to keep learning, got to read everything. It's tough. That's why attorneys make a lot of money, because they know these rules, they know these things, And so I was up till 3 in the morning last night, looking it up, looking up these rules, writing up these documents, up until the point of where today, it was like last minute where I finally finished. I wrote up my arguments. I had my documents prepared, so I went to go have them printed out. I went to the courthouse and filed them. Literally, when they were done being filed, I was doing the courtroom like 2 minutes later. Like, no lie. That, like, I was cutting it close, but I did it. I went into the courtroom. I wasn't even done setting down my paperwork, and the judge was already starting, because the judge was in the middle of trial, and she interrupted the trial she was on in order to give us half an hour for our temporary orders. I filed an expedited motion. I filed an expedited motion. They filed an expedited motion of temporary orders and modification. I filed an expedited motion to enforce a court order. So we went in, and judge was like, all right, you're the one that filed first, you go first. Just like that. I'm barely getting my paperwork together, but I had to go. It was go time. Whatever I said in that room today was going to affect the following year. The following year of my relationship with my daughter. I had to be on point. And I had 15 minutes. I sat down and I read through my argument, pointed out the documents, pointed out the rules, read through the statutes. I just boom, 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 point by point by point, hitting what I needed to hit. And then when it came time, when I was almost done, judge was like, you have a minute and a half. I'm like, fucking glorious. I'm thinking, glorious. That's great, because I only have one paragraph left, so I can make it count. And I did. Next thing you know, then they went. And out came the lies and the false accusations. But then it came time to the ruling. And then there it was. Bond shall be lifted. I am unsupervised parenting time. My daughter comes home tomorrow. That's right. Because I also threw in, I'm like, I'm missing out on my parenting time right now. I want makeup time. Straight up. And they did it. And I get my daughter tomorrow. And we have an arrangement going forward. And I could still file for a modification. It was glorious. It was glorious. Now, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get the tape from the court, because I'm going to show you guys how I did this thing. I'll show you guys the documents. I'll show you guys, like the hearing. I'll play the whole hearing, so that way you guys have it. And you guys are just going to hear me go point by point by point, And then the crying you hear at the end of it, I mean, I'll be honest. I got emotional because, these are my kids, man. These are my kids. I love my kids, But it was for like a brief second. And it was for like, a few seconds. You could probably hear some emotion. But it didn't. But what matters is at the very end, when the judge made the ruling, bond was lifted. I have unsupervised parenting time with a gradual increase. Bro, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. The baby mama started crying. She was mad. Of course she was, because she's a hateful, evil woman that would never want me to have my daughter in my life at all. They wouldn't want her to have her father in her life, just a horrible human being. And it happened, man. It was great. It was great. And victory, you know, small step. And, you know, I'm going to put together a modification and we're going to keep going from there, you know. So, anyway, I'm just excited. Thought y'all should know. Um, and just keep fighting, man. Be patient. Just keep fighting. And you got to play by their rules. You got to play by their rules. The sovereign citizen shit, that shit doesn't work. Um, you know, going in there trying to claim due process violations, man, you show up, that's jurisdiction. You know, um, due process violations, yeah, it occurs all the time, but you got to understand it's at a bare minimum, right? And due process violations mainly apply in criminal matters. It's just when you know and you experience it and you try to figure out why the things happened, you'll understand. You'll understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, that was it. Just wanted to share that with y'all. I'll be posting updates, or rather, like the documents as to what we went to war with, what they filed, what I filed, and then I'll be obtaining the tape from the court, so that way I could load that onto here, and so that way y'all can see how that goes. But anyway, good luck to y'all. Be patient and know that eventually, eventually, you'll get what you work hard for. Play by their rules. It sucks, but you gotta play by their rules. But the thing is, you gotta use their rules against them. Okay? That doesn't mean you're bowing down. No. That just means you're playing the same game. All right? All right. Till next time.